So welcome everyone. I'm here to talk today briefly about my new article called The Role of Scent in Psychotherapy, Rationale and Case Study. I'm Dr. Perkus, and this is just a short little about 6-page article that I wrote really just for the general public and also for psychotherapists, especially those who don't already use aromatherapy or know how to use it, just to help kind of situate some of the ways we can use scent. We have used scent in life, we can use it in therapy, and also give an example of the type of approach to aromatherapy with therapy that I do, which is called Aroma Freedom. So, first concept here is really just that scent and aroma have been used in traditional practices really for millennia, as long as there have been people, and just kind of a high-level overview of how it's used in different religious traditions. We find examples in Christianity, certainly in Buddhism, Hindu, Islam, indigenous cultures, and probably more as well. Really, I haven't found a religion that doesn't use scent in some way, which should tell us something. So we kind of want to take a look at what are the main ways that that scent is used in these ways. And the main ways, when you kind of research and kind of consolidate and break down the main themes of why is scent used and how is it used. Of course, for many years, uh, mostly scent has been in the form of incense. And something that you would burn. Years before they had electricity and diffusers, they had to find some way to get the scent into the space of the church or the temple or the mosque or the sitting room. And often it would be by burning incense, but also could be by placing flowers around. Of course, use of essential oils, in those contexts as well, or even fresh fruit. There's an aroma with that as well. Some cultures are use fruit for blessings. Here are the main ways that scent is used. Number one, possibly, I don't know if it's the most important or not, but purification of the space. This is both physical and energetic clearing. So purifying the air. Now, we as modern scientific people would say that there are germs in the air. There's bacteria, there's viruses. But for millennia, people didn't have these terms, germs, bacteria, viruses. They might say things like evil spirits. When people would get sick and there would be a plague, people would interpret that as, well, there are evil spirits that are, being passed from one person to another. Let's burn incense. And burning incense had this, who knows how it even started, but it has this quality of cleansing the space. And of course, modern science actually um, collaborates some of this. That there are essential oils, especially, but even other things, burning other herbs, can have a purifying antibacterial, antimicrobial effect. So there's physical clearing of space, which you want to do if there's large groups of people in there as well, but also energetic clearing. Um, and this is something that, you know, um, people have different beliefs about if energy exists and how it exists. Of course, Einstein showed that energy and matter actually are permutations of the same thing. But purifying energetically a space, some of you afterwards maybe can speak with me about your experiences with this. So we purify the space with an oil or with a scent. And then physical cleansing of oneself. So many spiritual traditions also speak about uh, physical purification, and there's an emphasis placed on cleanliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness. You've heard that phrase. And um, so why is that? Well, we could speculate why that's focused on. There can be a physical health component to it, and a lot of the religious dictums are really kind of just advice for good living, advice for healthy living, obviously. Um, but also, we can say energetically as well that cleansing your negative attitudes, your negative thoughts, and if you have any spiritual attachments, cleansing those away. Offering of respect in a temple situation, and in different religious and spiritual traditions. Burning incense is a way of offering respect to the deity, respect to God. There's this concept that a pleasant aroma is going to attract the divine presence, that just like a pleasant aroma in a flower is going to attract the bees, we could think of having a pleasant aroma around us will attract the divine to us. We want to come into connection with the divine. In a lot of these cultures, there's a symbolism, again, going back to the idea that people are mostly burning incense with smoke ascending up to heaven. There's this, sense that we're sending our prayers up to heaven. So there's this visual aspect of smoke going up. Now, of course, when we use essential oils, we don't really see that so much. Essential oils are more or less invisible. Of course, if we use a diffuser, you could see the steam coming up. But I just want to kind of uh, mention this to show that we are multisensory beings. We exist not just based on our visual or just on things we hear like words of prayers, nor just on the smells that we smell. So we're multisensory. So just kind of a tip for all of you, the more multisensory you can make whatever your healing work that you're engaged in, and meditation, the more engaging it will be. It's a meditation aid. So this just comes more from, let's say, Buddhism, where there's an emphasis on mindfulness meditation and focus and concentration. Some essential oils and scents have this focusing quality, this ability to focus our mind. And then on the flip side of it, a lot of essential oils and smells, scents can give us a peacefulness. And this is really to aid in receptivity. Have you ever heard that expression that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening to God? And so there is that aspect of getting yourself into a receptive place so that you can hear those messages. And then there's another thread through all this, emphasized in some cultures more than others. Maybe we'll see it more in the indigenous cultures, the healing properties of the herbs or the oils. So whether it's, weaving cedar or sage or, something like that, that there actually could be a healing quality to the herbs that we're using. So we're engaging in physical healing as well as spiritual. So the article starts kind of talking about that. And the next aspect of the article goes to, well, let's look at more modern settings. So spas and relaxation settings. And here we see scent is used for four main areas. We talk about stress reduction, enhancing your sensory experience, emotional well-being, and mind-body connection. So stress reduction, this is what we mostly think of. Life is hard, and living out in the world there's always a certain aspect of stress to it. So we want to find these places where we can go to get a respite, and we can let go of that stress and recover. So the question is, well, how do you do that? If you just put someone in a room and it's just a bare room with four blank walls, some people might find that relaxing, but a lot of people won't. Their brain keeps running and going, and they need something to engage with on a sensory level to pull them out of all that stuff they're still thinking about. So the power of smell has that ability. And by pulling us away from our engagement in our mind, especially, it pulls us into an engagement with our senses, with our here and now present experience. So that's kind of a thread you see from all these different aspects. You're reducing stress by letting go of the thoughts about the past and the future and coming into the moment. Enhancing a sensory experience. Remember, I mentioned a minute ago that the more of all of our senses that we can engage with, the more fully we will feel present, and the less we will be caught up in worries about past and future. Emotional well-being, of course, when we can relax and when we can calm down and find peace, then we can tap into the emotions that we need to feel. And the mind-body connection, as I said, we want something that gets us out of our mind. Like Fritz Perls, the developer of Gestalt therapy, he said we need to lose our minds and come to our senses. And there's, something, he said that kind of tongue in cheek, but there's something to that. Sensory here and now experience helps us to kind of ground ourselves. Some examples of how these are going to be used in spas and relaxation settings. These are things like, of course, diffusing essential oils. Those most of the people on the call know about that. Massaging with essential oils, aromatic steam rooms. Again, this goes back thousands of years. The Greeks and Romans would have flower petals in their steam rooms, and for these obvious reasons, people use scented candles. Some spas will create a custom blend. An aromatherapist who knows how to engage with someone and can ask the right questions and find out what they really need. Maybe connect with what's their personality type, What's the problem that they need help with? Is it help with sleep? And they need help with motivation or pain control? Can create a custom blend. And a lot of classical aromatherapy kind of falls along that side, like blending specific oils to match what a person needs. Guided meditation, sometimes you'll find that. And again, the sense of smell will help when you're on a guided meditation. Why is that? It's because it will calm you. It'll get you out of everything else you've been thinking, so you can focus on the visual. And of course, some essential oils and herbals will help induce deep breathing, things like eucalyptus and rosemary, that sort of thing. How is it used, or could it be used in psychotherapy? Well, the first thing I'll say is it's not used that much in psychotherapy that I'm aware of. There are scattering of reports here and there. And some therapists that I've spoken with, they'll like to have a candle or fresh flowers or an essential oil diffusing in the background. But not many therapists are using it yet. So I wanted to just go over a few of the ways that it could be used. And then I'm going to kind of zoom in on the way that I use it as well. So emotional regulation, this is the idea that a lot of people who come to therapy, part of their problem is they have a hard time regulating their emotions. So they'll be overcome with sadness, or they'll be overcome with anxiety or grief or that sort of thing. And when they feel overcome, and when they feel that they can't regulate, they're too low, they're too high, the therapist might teach them emotional regulation skills. So this could be diaphragmatic breathing. This could be self-hypnosis. This could be, learning how to take a break every so often, that sort of thing. And what we do with one of the ways you can use scent in this is to help a person, either giving them some type of an oil or a sachet or a flower remedy or something that they can use to regulate their emotion, either in the session or at home. Memory and trauma processing, well, this is our specialty at Aroma Freedom. Excuse me, this is what I do. And this is based on the idea that the sense of smell has this very immediate connection with memory. Hold on one second. So we all know how smelling fresh baked bread can bring us back to our grandmother's house, or smelling turpentine can bring us back to our grandfather's garage, or whatever it is, and it's instant and it's powerful. So we use the sense of smell to actually stimulate memory, and then, more important than that, to reconsolidate and process memories. But that's a very specific way of using scent, and not many people are doing it. But I'm going to share with you an example of how we do that. You can also use it for psychotherapy, just to enhance the therapeutic environment, as I said, by diffusing some oil or having fresh flowers, having pleasant smells. Well, what does that create? That creates an inviting atmosphere. And when you have an inviting atmosphere that you're doing therapy in, of course, that's going to induce trust. It's going to induce comfort and safety, so that a person feels safe to share what's going on, feels safe to be honest, feels safe to to show up and do the work that therapy requires. And then also giving a more engaged sensory stimulation. So as I mentioned, when you can stimulate the senses visually, like with a pretty picture, or with beautiful couch cushions or rugs, sometimes ambient music, sound waves, ocean waves, and certainly the sense of smell is another way that we can just engage the senses, as I mentioned, by bringing a person out of their head and into more of a full mind, body, mental and sensory engagement. That's real, full, true presence. And that's, in a way, what the purpose of psychotherapy is. When you can get a person in to be truly present to their life, then the problems kind of give way to solutions, I'll say it that way. So those are just some examples of ways that scent could be used. So I talk about that in the article. And then I mentioned the Aroma Freedom Technique, which is the technique I created back in 2016. And just briefly, so I'm not going into a whole training on what this is, or even what all the steps are, but we're setting goals, we're setting intentions, we're identifying negative beliefs and memories, and then we're inhaling essential oils, specific essential oils, and this has this effect of restructuring our thoughts and feelings about those memories. It's called memory reconsolidation. And by when our thoughts are restructured, sometimes emotions they surface and they're released. Sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's not. Different bodily movements there can be. But the point is really to reconsolidate these memories so that you can learn the lesson, no longer feel an emotional entanglement with the past. And then finally, we do this integration. It kind of occurs spontaneously as the memories reconsolidate. We might use in therapy, um, we might spend a little time integrating, reflecting on what happened and how does this affect your life, and so on. And in the article, I do give a brief example. I call her Rose, just kind of the word that came. I know that Rose is a flower, but it also can be a person. And I tell a story of Rose. She's an aspiring author. She wants to be an author, but she finds that she has her book written, but she can't seem to get it to the publisher. She can't let it kind of be released to the world, which a lot of authors have that problem. And so we do Aroma Freedom, and we go into some memories that just spontaneously emerged as the process guides it. And there are three main memories that emerge. The first one was really about a more recent abusive relationship she was in, and she realized that she had kind of been beaten down emotionally, and it had really messed with her confidence. So she didn't have the confidence to go out there and do something in the world. So we cleared that memory, smelling the oils and the way that I teach, and that kind of dissolves. And then we go and we check again, and now we go back to a memory of when she was a child, and um, her parents would fight about the father's drinking a lot, and she just remembers herself just kind of being still and silent in the corner, waiting for it to stop. She wasn't being physically abused, but it just kind of froze her. And so we identify this kind of freezing, which a lot of people, when you find some procrastination, often it's because they're stuck in a kind of a freeze response. And then the third, we go back again, and then we stumble into a memory that she hadn't thought of in many, many years. And when she was in fourth grade, they all had to write a poem, and so she was called on to read her poem to the class, and she just remembers, this little girl reading the poem, but she just remembers these kids in the back just kind of making fun of her and snickering and thinking it was stupid, and she just remembers the pain and feeling isolated and different and weird. And so we go back and we again breathing the oils, we kind of clear that out, and then something really cool happens after that. She as she's breathing the oils into that memory, kind of those kids kind of disappear, and then the whole memory transforms, and now she pictures herself as an adult speaking to a room full of women reading her book, and they're all feeling inspired, like they can go on to live great lives as well. So once that memory dissolves, she's able to spontaneously kind of see this image of her future. She no longer is blocking it. And then we spend some time integrating that. And then after that, she was able to send it off to the publisher. And so then in therapy, we just, as the months go on, I really worked with her at this point, not with unblocking her, but now helping her integrate her new role as an author. And well, what does that mean? And what is she going to talk about? And how is she going to make a living doing it? And this sort of thing. So that's an example of the specific form of aromatherapy and psychology called Aroma Freedom Technique. And there's an example, I tell a story of how we can do that. So just to kind of wrap everything up in the last part of the article, the conclusion, scent has been used throughout human history for what? Spiritual connection, this present moment awareness, reducing stress. Often it's to honor the divine and also to induce focus, both concentration focus and receptivity. So that's for thousands of years we've been doing that. It's also been used in spas, relaxation settings for things like stress reduction, enhanced sensory experience, emotional well-being, and creating a mind-body connection. In psychotherapy, we talked about how it can be used to help clients emotionally regulate the memory trauma processing that we do with Aroma Freedom, having an enhanced therapeutic environment, and also more sensory stimulation and engagement. And then I just reviewing We talked about aroma freedom. It's really a specific use of scent in the therapy and emotional wellness context. It helps with emotional and memory processing. It's very gentle, but very profound. A person can use it on themselves or in a therapy or coaching context. And I encourage both. I encourage people to use it personally as well as um, with a practitioner, because there are some things you can guide yourself through, and there's some things you really need to help being guided through. And we go into the neuroscientific and psychological basis of this. It's beyond what we talk about in the article, really, but this is something you can get more information from my books, which you can get at aromafreedom.com. And that's where we have our certification training program and the other entry-level trainings as well. So I wanted to give you that little overview just so you can kind of see what's in the article. And it's just an overview of how scent has been used, how we're using it in a specific way. It kind of just gives us a context. So any other questions, feel free to reach out to me.